What I see is, like, for example, if you try to get ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to write you something, it's really shitty. And it's shitty because by its nature, it goes to the mean, to the average. And it's not reliable. And I just can't even stand to see what it writes. Now, it's a useful tool if you're a writer and you're going, what's the thing? I'm trying to set something up, or somebody sends someone a letter, but it's delayed 2 days and it can give you some examples of that. I actually don't think it's very likely that it's going to be able to write anything meaningful, and in particular, that it's going to be making movies like from whole cloth, like Tilly Norwood. Like, that's bullshit. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's not. I think it turns out the technology is not progressing in exactly the same way they sort of presented it. And really, what it is going to be a tool. Just like sort of visual effects, and yeah, it needs to have language around it. You need to protect your name and likeness. You can do that. You can watermark it. Those laws already exist. I can't sell your fucking picture for money. I can't. You can sue me, period. It kind of feels to me like the thing we were talking about earlier, where there's a lot more fear because we have this existential dread. It's going to wipe everything out. Right. But that actually runs counter, in my view, to what history seems to show, which is adoption is slow, it's incremental. I think a lot of that rhetoric comes from people who are trying to justify valuations around companies where they go, we're going to change everything. In 2 years, there's going to be no more work. Right. Well, the reason they're saying that is because they need to ascribe a valuation for investment that can warrant the CapEx spend they're going to make on these data centers, with the argument that, like, as soon as we do the next model, it's going to scale up, it can be 3 times as good. Except that actually ChatGPT-5 about 25% better than ChatGPT-4 and costs about 4 times as much in the way of electricity and data. So when they say that's like plateauing, the early AI, the line went up very steeply, and it's now sort of leveling off. I think it's because, and yes, it'll get better, but it's going to be really expensive to get better. And a lot of people were like, fuck this, we want ChatGPT-4, because it turned out like the vast majority of people who use AI are using it to as companion bots to chat with at night. And so there's no work, there's no productivity, there's no value to it. I would argue there's also not a lot of social value to getting people to focus on an AI friend who's, telling you that you're great and listening to everything you say and being sycophantic. But that's sort of a side issue. I think for this particular purpose, the way I see the technology and what it's good at and what it's not, it's going to be good at filling in all the places that are expensive and burdensome and they make it harder to do it. And it's always going to rely fundamentally on the human artistic aspects of it.
This guy says great takes across the board. I think I disagree with mostly everything he said there. The first thing he said was, let's go back to it real quick.
I actually don't think it's very likely that it's going to be able to write anything meaningful, and in particular, that it's going to be making movies from whole cloth, like Tilly Norwood. That's bullshit.
I think that's bullshit, actually, because if you were to go back in time and tell people 100 years ago about TikTok and TikTok brain and the quick dopamine hits that you got off of just scrolling the timeline, I think most people, they probably would scoff at that and be like, no, nobody's going to accept that. Nobody's going to want that. That's not going to be something that's actually attractive to the general population. We like to go to, I don't even know, the play, watch a silent movie. That's what we like. See, we like this. Now that is the standard. That is what people like. People's attention span, the dopamine, the A to B, quick, efficient hits, getting my dopamine right now, cutting out the middleman. Watching a 2-hour movie is too slow. I mean, Gen Z people young, they don't even really go to movies anymore because it's too much of a commitment, too much of an investment. And it's largely because technology has progressed to a point where something like TikTok hits you in those dopamine receptors at such a degree that sitting there and watching a movie, or hell, movies did that with books. People don't even read books anymore. They haven't read books for a long time. The general populace they watch shit. They watch all their I mean, even when you talk about media in news, right? Most news is just clips, right? I mean, take this, for example. He's on a podcast. It's pushing. The technology has changed. The environment has forced him to adopt it. He has to go on to Joe Rogan. This is the first time he's ever gotten on Joe Rogan. because he has to, because that's where the technology led him. It's not that people are going to look and say, well, I can't make anything meaningful. It's that the populace isn't going to want anything meaningful. They're not going to give a shit about a meaningful movie, Godfather, a 3-hour movie. They're not going to care about that because they have the alternative here that's TikTok, that's quicker, faster dopamine hits, and we're going to go with that. So whether or not the argument of whether or not AI can produce a meaningful piece of content, meaningful movie, it's kind of out the window. It doesn't matter because the slop that AI generates is going to be what you have, and that's going to adjust the populace, and that's going to be what they want to see. They're going to look at a movie from the 1960s and they're going to go, this is slow crap. I don't have the attention span, and nor do I care to have the attention span to watch this shit. You never would see someone of his caliber, an actor, an A-list actor going on Joe Rogan's podcast. Are you kidding me? But that's where the views are. That's where the technology is taking us. And you're adjusting to it. So that is completely wrong. I think that as more and more AI proliferates, more and more AI slop proliferates, more Tilly Norwoods come out, I think that's going to be what we are going to want to see. We're going to reflect more of that. We're going to buy into that because we've done this. We've done this over the years. And the second point, like he said, was, well, adoption's slow and it takes a while. Let's go to that clip.
It kind of feels to me like the thing we were talking about earlier, where there's a lot more fear because we have the sense this existential dread. It's going to wipe everything out.
Right.
But that actually runs counter, in my view, to what history seems to show, which is adoption is slow, it's incremental.
How is that? What are you talking about? How is the creation of the automobile not forced everybody in the America to have a car? You have to have a car. The creation of the automobile forced us to build a highway system, which forced everybody to get on board with that. Or cell phones, coming out with a cell phone, a smartphone. You get the smartphone came out, it consolidated all the information, all your tools that you had in life, your calculator, your alarm clock, your phone itself, right? The internet, it consolidated all this into one sweet little device. And what happened was you saw institutional adoption of it. And now there's people who can't even clock in at work without their phone. And so you just see everybody slowly adopting, okay, that's the way she goes. Is that once the capitalist structure adopts it and says, this is the most efficient way to go, then they take it and they say, this is it. This is the lay of the land. And this is how we're going to do it. And everybody just has to follow suit. I mean, think about, my parents were just talking about smart meters. Right, smart meters are coming. They're not here just yet, but they're coming. And they came to their house and said, "We want to put a smart meter in," and they refused. And they're charging people more to have a regular meter because a smart meter is more efficient and it's easier to use. And they might be able to lay off a bunch of meter readers and make a lot more money. But to counter that, we're gonna have to charge you more if you want to have the normal one, because then we're gonna have to get a meter reader out here to read it. And it's like, well, eventually, what's gonna happen is that they're just gonna give in. People are just gonna give in. They're saying, I'm not gonna pay more, because you could just keep ratcheting up the price. You could just keep ratcheting up the price if you're the electric company. And eventually they're gonna say, fine, no more. I can't afford this. Give me the damn smart meter. And they go, here you go. Here you go. Now your energy usage is under constant surveillance and control and centralized. Eventually you buy into it and you have to go with, if you're part of this community, part of this social structure, which most people are, unless you have the gift of being born in the Amish, you have to buy into this shit. And I bet you the Amish have to buy into stuff too. I don't think that they're completely out of everything, out of society. I bet you there's some things that the government forces them to do. You have to do this. And they're like, okay. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I would bet there's something out there that they've had to adopt.
I think a lot of that rhetoric comes from people who are trying to justify valuations around companies where they go, we're going to change everything. In 2 years, there's going to be no more work. Right. Well, the reason they're saying that is because they need to ascribe a valuation for investment that can...
It's not even about... It's about the logic of it, right? If we are going to push for an automated society... You can say, Ben Affleck, you can say, well, it's not going to be in 2 years. Yeah, maybe it won't be in 2 years. Maybe it won't be in 5. But what about in 20? What about in 30, 40? Then we're talking like, whoa, I don't know, man. What if the younger generations do like watching AI slop over your fucking movie? You're going to go, wait, this doesn't have any meaning to it. My movie's way more meaningful than that AI slop. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. People are totally okay with sacrificing the power process and sacrificing actual edifying things in their life to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. They're totally fine with that. Clearly, we've seen that time and time again. Every one of these technologies is pushing us towards that, and the adoption of that comes sooner or later. It comes at some point. So this, I totally disagree with this.
The vast majority of people who use AI are using it to as companion bots to chat with at night.
Which is not
good. There's no
good.
work, there's no productivity, there's no value to it. I would argue there's also not a lot of social value to getting people to focus on an AI friend who's, telling you that you're great and listening to everything you say. And
okay, is that not something to worry about? If that's what it is right now, it's just bullshit companion bot. Okay, if most people are just talking to an AI companion, is that not a big problem right now? Which it is happening. We've covered it multiple times on this channel. People having AI psychosis, and the guy who I'll never forget, the guy who was married to his AI bot. That shit is whack, dude. And that is happening right now. So I don't know what the hell this is just wrong. I think he's just off on this.
But that's sort of a side issue. I think for this particular purpose, the way I see the technology and what it's good at and what it's not, it's going to be good at filling in all the places that are expensive and burdensome and they make it harder to do it. And it's always going to rely fundamentally on the human artistic aspects of it.
He also said something interesting at the beginning where he said it kind of collects a general understanding of things. It gives you the answer that most people would answer, right? It kind of does this democratic kind of thing. But it's if that's how, which we see this already with people on X, it's if that's how the average person is going to go about understanding things, understanding life, understanding or whatever, even artistic stuff. And it's that's the general mind. The populace is geared towards the general vomit that AI gives you. They are going to see something that is quote unquote meaningful, a meaningful movie as something foreign and as something that's not really what they want. It's it's going to shape our minds, man. And I don't know what the solution is to this, because when a new technology comes out, it's just a matter of time. If it's an actual revolutionary technology, like the iPhone, like electricity, like the automobile, it is a matter of time before institutions adopt it. And then once institutions adopt it, the populace adopts it. That's what happens every time. And we are forced to, because we live in this society and we don't have a way out. The more those things come out, the more technologies are pushed upon us, the less power we as individuals have. The more our individual autonomy is reliant upon the creators and makers of this technology. And that's what's happening with AI, is that we are now to the point to where we're outsourcing our minds to AI. So much so that we need the first lady to come out and tell us never. She just gave a big speech about never give your mind over, never give your thinking over to AI. People are going to do that. They always do the path of least resistance. And I don't know how to instill it among people. I don't even really know how to instill it among myself, frankly. It's very hard. I don't know if anybody else in chat has tried to do this. Try to give up your technologies. Try to give up your phone. Try to give up your car. Try to give up electricity. Can you give any of this stuff? Can you give up the internet? Maybe for a little while. But then there's other external pressures that come into play. And on top of it, it also feels like kind of a LARP when you do it. Oh, I'm going to give up. I'm not going to be on the internet. I'm going to get a flip phone and I'm going to walk everywhere. It's dude, you're fucking LARPing. Get the fuck in the car. Get your phone. We got work to do. It feels like a LARP, man. And that was one of the problems I always had with the Amish people. I used to deliver for Amazon, and I would frequently deliver to Amish areas, which again, even that's isn't this a technology? You're using delivery services? What? Even they kind of have adopted technologies. But even when I saw them, I would think, get the fuck in a car, get out of the horse and buggy, get off the damn scooter, and get your ass in a car like the rest of us. It feels like a LARP. It just feels like this is here and it's way more efficient and it's way easier to use. And stopping that, in a sense, is what are you doing? Why? Why would you ever do that? People at work, I've talked about driving stick. Oh, you know how to drive stick? It's no, I don't know how to drive stick, because no cars are manual. They're all automatic nowadays. Why the hell would I learn how to drive stick? What's the point? Well, it's kind of like more fun. It's like fun. It's like, it's fun. That's it. That's the only point. Like, I don't know. It's just like it just seems to me like a LARP. And it's like, I hate that it feels that way to me, but it just is. It's just like, it's like the same people who want to go back. I want to go back to the 1950s America. It's like, no. Oh, and then you get your trad wife and you wear a suit and you get your pipe and you listen to your, it's like, this is a fucking LARP, dude. Just put the fucking fries in the bag. And it sucks, but it's like, that's what it is. It's here. And there's just like, it just seems like there's no way as an individual to overcome that. I don't know. It has to be, and it really has to be more of a social thing, like a societal thing. It can't be just you as an individual. You're the one doing it. You're stepping out of the technological status quo, and you're saying, I'm going back to my primitive roots. It's like, that's not going to work. That's just not going to work, because every person you interact with, everything you do is tied to the technological status quo. And so you're going to be a big problem. And you're not going to be able to even really function or interact with people. But if you have a community, a commune, if you will, an an-prim commune, maybe you can get by. But doing it by yourself just does not work. Do people just give in to societal pressure so they don't look weird? No. What did I say? What is it that I said that was superficial about this? I'm not saying it's superficial that people have phones or people drive cars or they use electricity or they use the internet. It's not about, oh, I want to be cool. Although you can maybe argue that there is just a general social aspect to it, that when most people adopt it, you do feel a sense of, maybe there's an element to that you feel a sense of being left behind. But then, people only adopt it, like I said, because they're kind of impressed upon by the top down, by big business, by the government to adopt it. They force this shit on you, and people inevitably give in, and you're left in the dust. But I don't think it's about like looking cool or looking weird. I just think that efficiency is one hell of a drug. I think efficiency, optimization, this god of technology, the god of capitalism, is one hell of a drug. And in theory and in practice too, I should preface that they like to be able to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Like, yeah, right. I think everybody here would probably say, yeah, of course. I like to have my DoorDash. I would like to teleport if I could, right? I'd like to drive my car rather than walking. Of course. But there is a cost, a human cost, I think, that comes with sacrificing what Uncle Ted, he would call the power process, right? Goal, the effort for the goal, and then achievement of goal, right? Cutting out the middleman, the effort for the goal, and just having goal, achievement, goal. That is what we're at right now with technology. And I think there's something deeply inhuman about that we are feeling. That's where I think largely the meaning crisis comes from. Is that we've been given these alternatives, and it feels in a sense that it's the right thing to do, and it's the correct thing to do, and it's the most efficient, quickest way of doing things. And that in some sense, choosing lesser is, like I said, like a LARP, or like, why would you ever do that? So we just naturally are going to be tending towards the path of least resistance. And then you break down our number one goal in life, which is survival, which is, this kind of primitive mentality of going out, having to go out and be a hunter-gatherer and hunt buffalo, and the struggle for food. Well, here's a burger that's put in front of you in 5 minutes. It's like, oh, well, and it tastes better than anything in the history of forever. And you're just like, well, why would I say no to that, right? There has to be an alternative vision, maybe. You have to offer up something else that, in a sense, quenches that thirst that the efficiency of technology provides. You have to quench that thirst in a more meaningful way. But it's just tough, it's a tall order. That's just some thoughts on this. I think that he's dead wrong. I think that he is in over his head. And I think ultimately he's giving in to the thing he said is not a big problem. He's giving into the technological status quo by coming on Joe Rogan.